Hey, fellow creators, welcome to the very first episode of Creators Live Show, a show where we discuss everything you need to know to monetize your skills and your expertise. I'm your host, Sona, here at Uteach, and we are joined today by amazing Jessica Koch, who is a consultant with 10 plus years of experience, who is also a fellow podcast host and the founder of virtual assistant membership program. So, welcome, Jessica, and thanks for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited about your show. It's a good topic to teach everyone.
Yeah, and today we are going to discuss pre-selling your online courses, what you need to consider before your main course launch,
Mhm.
and also we'll be discussing the main pitfalls you wanted to avoid before your official course launch is done,
Mhm.
and what you can do to prevent your course from failing. So
Mhm.
we'll discuss also the failing reasons. So going straight into the topic, I've talked to many creators and coaches, and the main thing I've noticed that they overlooked the point of marketing their courses beforehand and not
Mhm.
organizing the pre-sales beforehand. So you have this brilliant idea in your mind, and you put your course together. The content is ready, everything is ready, and you're now like, okay, I'm going to sell this, right? So Jessica, I was curious to know if you had the same experience with your first program, with your first course, when you were like, I should have done this way, I should have done this the other way, or you just prioritize the pre-selling part.
I have created courses and didn't necessarily do the steps you should really take in the beginning. And I was lucky because I also had some collaboration efforts happening. And so we still had some success, but I did learn that there is so much more you can do to really get things ready before you roll out, and even to test if this is something that your community really is interested in and really desires, so that you are creating what your community actually needs and not just the idea you have. When you're driving along, you think, oh, this is brilliant, but you have to be sure that your community loves the idea too.
So yeah, that's very important to see
Mhm.
if there is a demand for your course or for your program. And I
Mhm.
wanted to know, do you think like doing the pre-sales is important, and why do you think so?
Yeah, I absolutely do think pre-sale is important. And I actually even think pre-planning, like, so not even just the pre-sale of a course, but pre-creation. So before you create a course, having these conversations with your joint venture partners, with your community, with your current customers about what is their biggest challenge or the thing they really want to learn the most. And even conducting our like article interviews where you say, I'm just going to ask a few questions. I'm writing an article about topics in this area, right? In marketing and sales, or whatever industry you're covering, and gather that data of what really interests them, what the problems are. And even you can research what people are Googling, because that'll sometimes give you an idea of what's being asked. What are people Googling in the middle of the night, right? Because that may
Yeah.
be a really hot topic for what you create before you put all that time and energy and money into building a full course. I think that pre-creation and doing your research is really important.
Yeah, that's like the basis that you should follow in the future. And looking
Mhm.
back at your experience of pre-creation process and pre-planning process even, are there something that you want like beginners to avoid? Because when you're doing something and then you look back, sorry, you are, I should have done this way. It would be better if I began here. So had you such experience, and can you share your experience with us?
Well, I would say that I have created some courses and I'm not unhappy that I did it, because sometimes, and people say this a lot, right? And one of my good friends, Blaine Teal, says it all the time: is done beats perfect, right? So sometimes you just go out there and do it, and that's great because you learn from that. But then after that, taking what you did, evaluating, tracking, and managing the results of what happened, and then making the adjustments going forward. So, you're talking about pre-sale and preparation. I mean, there's lots and lots of different things that you can do to begin to get your community really excited and buying before your content's even built. So.
So yeah, are there any pitfalls that we should avoid maybe?
Yeah, avoid doing it all by yourself. We mentioned I have a virtual assistant membership team. Have a team, because anybody can afford a team at this point. There's lots of affordable options, but also have people that collaborate with you. So look at the networking groups that you're in, look at the people that you've made friendships with in the business space, and they may also have a course, right? And so offer, when they're getting ready to do a pre-sale of theirs, to offer a bonus to their community, right? And then maybe
Yeah.
have them do the same, or get on other people's podcasts, or speak on other people's stages, or get involved with others to help you do this, so that you're not doing it alone.
So are we speaking about self-branding at this point?
I'm sorry.
Are we speaking about self-branding at this point?
Well, yeah, I mean, you wanna have strong branding, but you also do want to have great relationships, because I think relationships make the world go round. All the places that you network, all the places that you speak, all the communities that you're working in, and even your own community, getting even your own current clients and people who love you already, having them be your affiliates for this, getting them excited, building a small team within them, and rewarding them for the success. And because they're already your biggest fans, right? They're the ones who are writing the testimonials right now. So yeah, just about not doing it alone.
Yeah, having a team and networking is really, really important. Yeah, I know that. And besides networking, what I feel like is important during the planning phase, during the pre-selling stage, is like you're trying to build anticipation towards your new course, towards your new program. And I want to know, how do you build this anticipation? How do you get your students, future students, prospects excited about what's going on?
I mean, really, I would center it around a goal that maybe they would have to achieve. So, whatever transformation your product offers, your online course offers, whatever transformation that is, get them excited about seeing that transformation happen in a timeline, whether it's 6 weeks or however long it would take them to make the change. You can do many challenges before that to get them excited about it. You can also offer them bonuses that come for early bird commitments, and accountability, and then even thinking about your price structure, so that you're including some pieces that this is what they have to pay up front, but as you hit your success goals together, then that's when you're paying the rest. So kind of a result based paying method, because that's really unique and exciting for them to say, oh, this person's actually gonna be in it with me to succeed, because they have skin in the game too. So when you guys are working together like that, I think that's more powerful than just having a flat upfront, $5,000, $10,000 fee.
Yeah, and all these strategies work when you like already have a student base. What about if you are just a beginner and you do not have so many students to do the early bird discounts and everything? How do you go about that?
I think the best way to do that is to start with a micro course. So, not your full blown course. So, do a micro course, so that again, you can do it with collaboration. So, maybe, for example, there's an author or book clubs that are on your subject too. And this micro course can go in as a benefit with that author. Again, it's all about collaboration. So, if you haven't built your own list, then you really need to leverage relationships and communities of your ideal customer, working with that admin or that community leader to make it a win-win for them also, benefit for them also, but finding a way to get exposure, so that you can then begin to build a list, and then offering to do the same kind of swap or trade or support in some way for them as well. Maybe you have something else that you can offer them of value, and to make that work. Because if you're starting from ground zero, the best way, instead of trying to build your community one person at a time, is to go one group leader at a time, build a relationship, and try to have some synergy.
So, does this suggest that your course has not to be perfect for you to just do the pre-sales? You have to like consistently improve that and add on that until the launch. Like, is that the idea?
Yeah, I think you can constantly improve your course. I think updating it. I think people who even receive some of the courses I've built in the past are still getting, when I update things or add a new chapter or revamp some of the videos, I just automatically send them, and they get all excited about the topic all over again, because usually it's something they're still interested in, and incentives for them to share it. So as you every time you do update something and improve it, that's one more time that you're top of mind in your audience, and you're able to say, hey, and here's some things you can do. And if you share it, here's some other great gifts you'll receive, or affiliate commission, or whatever you decide you want the program to go. Or maybe some money will go to a cause that your community cares about. Maybe you're in a women's group in a community, and maybe that women's group supports scholarships for single moms or something. And so you can let them know, hey, here's an updated version of the course. And don't forget, every time a course is sold, we're supporting a single mom out there. So just reignite them with excitement. And so I think, yeah, continually improving your course as you go and not worrying about it being perfect up front is definitely a benefit.
Yeah. So when we were talking about pre-sales, besides like building this anticipation, I feel like it's also important to create a sense of urgency that your pre-sales offer is really limited, because that's the whole idea of doing the pre-sales. And I wanted to know, how do you get this message across to your students that your offer is limited and create this sense of urgency?
Well, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but really, with pre-sale urgency and for an online course, genuinely, they're unlimited, right? You can buy as many online courses you want. There really isn't, only 5 left on the shelf. You can buy as many digital courses as you want. So you want to attach your urgency to a timeline for a date that we're cutting off the pre-sale benefits or bonuses at this time. And then again, I talked about having a joint venture person offer their bonus. And so their bonus can be limited. So you can only receive the additional videos from the amazing Sonia, who's going to support my course, and she's giving this piece of her course to my early bird special, but that offer ends this time. So connected to something that feels more real. Because if you're trying to create a sense of urgency on something that everyone's like, yeah, right, everyone, you can buy, there's not a limited amount of courses, right?
Yeah.
So you want to connect
That's
it.
not a digital product. That's not a product at
Yeah,
all.
it's digital. So of course you're going to download as many as you want. So instead, connect it to, a guest and a person coming in, making a special offer to the community that does have a time cutoff, a true real, then you're creating a real sense of more authentic urgency. Or even again, during this time period, we're going to double our donations to the cause that we care. And we can only do this for a limited time. We're only doing it up to this date, because we can't keep up, right? So the more we can get in this time frame, the better. The better for the cause. Or just you have to be creative and really think about what does your community care about, and how can you get that going.
Yeah, and have a fixed deadline. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and talking about timing, you mentioned that you should have this timeline always ready. And how do you advise that we should typically plan the pre-launch? How far from the launch?
The pre-sale, how far from the launch, I think really again varies on what your strategy is. I wouldn't say any longer than 2 or 3 months, because then after that you could lose the enthusiasm,
Yeah,
and
in
maybe
excitement.
Yeah, maybe 3 to 6 weeks might even be more ideal. It really, again, depends on your community and the plan that you have for it's like, think about it like a book signing tour, right? How many bookstores can you physically, travel to and go to in this certain amount of time? And then if you're thinking about, maybe you're thinking about speaking on stages and going to podcasts and doing joint venture networking. So then you have
Yeah.
to look at the calendar and say, well, how many of these do I want to hit during the pre-sale time? So that's going to be some of what decides how long do you want to stretch out your pre-sale space. And then don't forget to have some time for pre-creation space, right, where you're really talking to your community and you're really taking note and social listening to what really is trending and top of mind, and most important to the community.
Yeah. So I've mentioned like two typical channels of announcing the pre-launch, the pre-selling process, which is like going out and talking to your audience directly during the podcast, during webinars, or during even live events. And
Mhm.
there is another way, a traditional way that people use is using the social media, using email campaigns. So
Mhm.
what's your main way of going about that, or maybe you prefer the mix of both? What main channels do you use to like launch pre-launch process?
Yeah, I think it has to be a little of everything. There has to be some email, some social media. There also needs to be, if you have happen to have built a texting or a phone list, you can do ringless voicemail drops and texting campaigns if you have people who've opted in for that. And then again, the networking and speaking on other people's stages, their podcasts, their summits, their events, as well as holding your own, I think, are really important. So you really do have to have a true variety in your marketing plan. You're going to hit different components and decide, how much energy. But I'm more organic than anything else. I shy away from paid ads and the different platforms just because I feel like I can measure and see the results from my relationships, and tracking affiliate links than I can, um, from some of that. So.
So you prefer the mix of both live events and also like social events,
Mhm.
offline and online events?
Yeah, mostly online though, virtual, because you're dealing with online courses and they can be sold anywhere. So, yeah.
So do you also do like email campaigns, prepare email campaigns for during this stage? Yes.
Mhm.
And I'm curious to know how many mails go in that campaign or the like their main content, what should have been the content for those emails?
Yeah, so I think it's like, buckets of stages for the course. If you're looking at the emails, right? So the first bucket is pre-creation. So 3 to 5 emails about pre-creation and getting that information of, is this a great course to create? And then once you've established that it is, the pre-launch piece as you're developing it, then another, I mean, 3 to 7 maybe, because now you have something viable, right? And spaced out over time. And then you're going to have some once the course is launched. And then you're also going to have some that continue to nurture the people who have purchased it, because those people are going to, be your best cheerleaders. And I always say have a hybrid component to your online course. Don't just create an online course and let people go. Always have a place for them to meet with you live once they purchase your course, even if it's once a month or once a quarter, to have conversations in a community setting so that you can again stay top of mind and keep life breathed into that course once it's living on a platform so that it doesn't just sit there stagnant forever.
So yeah, that is not always visible to like also meet your students when you have students all over the world. So in that case, I think you should be organizing some webinars or live events if you want to meet your students and communicate them in a live way. So
Mhm.
talking about webinars, do you also organize webinars during the pre-launch phase, during the pre-selling phase?
Mhm.
And what's your best strategies or best practices that you can share with us?
Yeah, so really, I mean, offer to teach and do a lot of what's going to be in the course. Everyone's always afraid, oh, what if I give away all the good ideas, then they won't want to buy it. That isn't true, because truthfully, people often find that the more they learn, the little bit more overwhelmed they are. And the more they want your step-by-step process, a copy of the videos, the workbook, they're going to need it even more. So having events where you actually give real value, and not just tease them about the
Mhm.
product. And then also being on other people's guests on other people's workshops and webinars and group meetings. And like I said, being a guest in a book club, maybe that talks about a similar topic, and just being a guest on as many places as you can in the pre-sale piece is super important, because then once you've sold it, you have students and you can have your own events and you have your own club to invite, right? And then you have all those other places that you were going when you were doing the pre-sale to invite them to come, also, right? So
So yeah, if we're about to put all these emails, live events, webinars, and everything in like a framework, how would this process go? For example, you get your leads through lead magnets, and you then lead them to your webinar, and you then lead them to through emails. You lead them to a webinar, and eventually you lead them to your pre-sales purchase. And how does that process work for you? If we can put that in a framework or steps, even if we can put it that way.
yeah, I think you just described the whole funnel. So you just said it. So they I think it starts with the research, like we discussed, and maybe getting
Mhm.
if addressing that, are they interested in the topic? And some of the ways you can know that will actually help you build your list. So you could say 7 ways to solve XYZ, right? A checklist of 7 ways to solve XYZ, or a short video, a 3-minute video on how to solve XYZ, and download it here, and put that out on social media and in your emails. And then you have this email list, and then you begin having those conversations, so they're getting that, and they're in that funnel. And then you decide this is a good thing because you're getting enough response. And then you have to have, like I talked about before, pockets of funnels, like I talked about the different segments of the email process, and then incorporating your speaking engagements and your joint venture pieces into that too. Having an outline of a marketing plan is a great thing. So really mapping this out and taking time to plan it, will help you. And talking to other people who have had successful online course events, and checking out podcasts and watching Sonia's podcast will also help you have a great online course event.
Okay, so we'll talk about like the main channels, the emails, webinars, and everything. And I think another component that you should take into consideration during the pre-sales process is having your website done and having your like landing page done for you to include maybe your lead magnet or information about your course and everything. So, what components go into the landing page of your course, into your pre-sales offer?
Well, you really want a strong headline. And it's interesting because for so long people are talking about, you want it to be zazzy and snazzy and snippy and all this to draw people in and have a hook. And truthfully, if it is more as close to the simplistic version of the pain that you're solving or the transformation you're making, as clear and simple as you can make it, I believe the stronger it is. So you really want a strong headline, and then you want a sub headline that's really going to break down the transformation, that, oh, you're here, but you'd really like to be here, kind of a piece. And then you're really going to want that overview of the course itself, some information about the instructor, and their credibility, so their bio, the person creating the course. You really want to have some good videos and images and pieces that will give them a stronger feel. And some of the images and videos can be describing and sharing the transformation they really desire, right? And helping them imagine it and lead them in. And, if you have testimonials, even not from this product, you can have testimonials from the work of people who worked with that instructor in some capacity. Right. So as long as this isn't the first thing the person's ever done in their life, they should have some sort of testimonial of the kind of person they are. And even if it's actually the first thing they've ever done, they've been to school, they have instructors who know about them,
Yeah.
some kind of testimonial about their character, their credibility on some level, even if it's not for the course itself. And then call to action, that's really huge. You want it to be clear and simple and really bold and standing out. You want to have information on how the pricing works, and it's nice to give them more than one option. No more than three. Two is kind of ideal, but give them some ways that they don't have to talk themselves out of buying, right? Especially if it's a significant price tag to your course. And then really having some frequently asked questions that you can think of, and in your pre research, you can come up with some of those as you're talking to people and interviewing people. Some of the questions will pop up during that time from the people that you're talking to. And that'll help you a lot to have some frequently asked questions kind of section and customer support, so people feel like they're going to be cared for, some way to contact someone on your team or you, so that they can feel like they can get all their questions asked. And maybe even if this is a big deal for you and this is your main focus, maybe even a short 15-minute Calendly link to have a conversation with you, so that they can begin to know, like, and trust you even more if they haven't before, so that they can learn more about taking that next step into buying the course. And of course, that depends on how much the cost the course is, and also your bandwidth of time. So depending on if you have the time to actually take appointments. But in the beginning, you may, but as you get more successful, you may not have the time, which is a good problem to have, right?
So yeah, if we can summarize that, you basically have to share that value that you're trying to get to your students, and then you have your testimonials or your achievements or any programs that you have done that made you a great creator or a great consultant, etc. And you have the CDAs, and you have your contact information, you have your frequently asked questions, and most importantly, the pricing. And I want to emphasize that because I feel like so many people have like challenges and difficulties on setting the right price for their program, for their course, etc. And if we're talking about pre-sales, right? Your pricing of a pre-sale should be different from the one that you gonna put on your launch course. So, how are your strategies of pricing your program during the pre-sales phase?
So, really, my strategy for pricing, of course, there needs to be some sort of benefit for pre-sale, but I use pretty much the same strategy for pricing for everything I do. I always take into account taxes. I always take into account affiliate fees that I may want to be paying out. I take into account some sort of cause being connected to this. I take into account my team and the expenses of the business itself that need to be taken out. I also think about what kind of profit does the company actually want to make from this product itself. And then after I look at all those components and think about how I want that to work, then I take a look at what the competitors are pricing and what's on the market, and then really think about the value and the transformation you're providing, and what kind of pricing can you justify that it feels authentic to you. And I am really trying to incorporate more and more in my larger ticket items and online courses and other bigger programs, some sense of result-based pricing. So a certain amount up front to cover some of those costs we talk about, but then as the customer or the client or the student achieves certain benchmarks, then they pay another amount, another amount, another amount, but the money is showing up. So it's self-funding, right? So it's paying, this program is in results is paying for itself. Now that's only when that can happen, because sometimes this is not a product that's connected to maybe business growth or actual financial success, right? Sometimes your programs and online courses will be more based on emotional or other solutions they're solving. So you might not always be able to do that, but it is something to think about. And then when you may come up with your ultimate price, then you're going to want to think about adjusting it some for that pre-sale time, right? So, but first you need to know what your ultimate price is, and that's kind of the path I take to determine pricing.
So if we're speaking with figures, with this, let's say that you have this like great course, which is not like a long course, like a 10-hour course. It's less than that. And if we can put it into digits, how much you think the average price would be for the pre-sale stage?
It's very difficult because I think every industry and every subject matter and every transformation is different. I mean, one course can be, so one of our programs, we guarantee 250,000 in a year or less with our program and our pricing, right? So we guarantee the customer is going to have that. So then our price, of course, is appropriate to our guarantee and the work that we're doing for them, right? Because it's also a done for, done with them kind of a program and a product. So I think it's difficult to just give a flat dollar rate of what is, because I see courses out there for, on Udemy for $1 and $15, and then, $500 and $5,000 and $10,000. So, these things all vary based on the experience and the credibility and the history of the creator and what kind of transformation it's making, and is it one that's going to impact their revenue and their income, or is it one that's going to impact their life and their personal life and their relationship. So I don't know that you could actually just, based on a 10-hour or less program, give a number out. It has too many factors to think about.
Yeah, of course, it depends on how much of your personal expertise you've put into that, how much effort you've put into that, how much value, or even how modern the topic you're covering is.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the lowest price range that you can't go below that you've made a rule that you've never go below that for you?
Well, I
If
mean,
it's not, of course.
I don't know that there is. I don't know that there is that, because there's even, like I said, micro courses and things I teach all the
Yeah.
time that are part of a gift, right? So that's free, right? And but it never works out being that way for me. I end up always receiving revenue on anything I teach or anything I do. Even our free gifts and our free giveaways, they generate revenue and community and growth. So. Yeah, I don't know that I have that rule. I think I just kind of go with what I think for that specific item. So I know that I'm not giving you the great answer that you want. You want the magic number, but really there isn't one.
I know that there is a magic number and the same price cannot work for all, and I perfectly get it. And when talking about the components that you should include in your landing page, one of them was to have like this information about you, and also I feel like feedback, taking into account your students' feedback on your course is really important before you can make it to launch. So how do you take that feedback from your students to make your course better until you can have the official launch?
I really think that's why I believe in, especially before a course is completely finished the way you believe you want it to be as a creator. I really think it's important to have a hybrid piece. So having it so that there is this, video, workbooks, modules, and a process they go to through online, but then coming together in a group session to have discussion and to go deeper with the material and to really get the insight and the feedback in that experience, I think is super important, especially as you're establishing a new product.
Yeah. And also, when you have let's imagine that you've done the pre-sales right, and you already have those students who purchase your program, who purchase your course. Now, it is also very important to keep a good relationship with your students, to nurture your students. And how do you keep those relationships? How do you nurture your relationships? Because you still have to do the launch, okay? And until you can have the launch, how does the relationship go? How does the further nourishing go?
Yeah, I think it stays with what I just mentioned, a monthly meeting or a bi-monthly meeting, depending on my bandwidth or time, or the weight this particular course has and program has in my company at the moment, right? Is it the top number one thing we're trying to achieve? Or, is it number three or number five? And, if it's something that we're developing as a test and it's not the top of our rank, I still want to make sure that we can meet months a month with them before it goes into actual launch. And then maybe once actual launch is done, it's once a month for a while, but then goes to once a quarter, so that as the sales continue to come in over the years, you're still meeting quarterly and having an event, a virtual event of some kind, for your community, where they're getting to actually, talk with you and see your face, and receive some benefit from their investment. And I think that kind of relationship and long-term support is better than just making a whole bunch of courses and never talking to your community. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I was wondering, let's imagine that your pre-sales is done, the deadline is over. How do you transform from your pre-sales to the actual launch? How do you make this process go smooth, go natural? How does that happen?
I think one of the things you could do is take all those amazing people who supported you and feature them. Get their permission to do articles and blogs about them, do some live streams with them into your community, and talk about how amazing the program pre-launch was, and now how you're launching and you're moving into a big launch party, and that promotion. And again, staying with many speaking opportunities. Go to be a speaker at other people's summits and podcasts and events and joint venture, and get all of those people to be an affiliate of your program with the new pricing and an affiliate commission and software and technology that tracks that, so that your launch can be very powerful and successful.
Yeah, we mentioned the power of networking during the pre-planning process, and I think like the same goes here.
Mhm.
As And now about the main reasons how your course can fail, because there are a lot of things that you haven't considered before, and you just face that at the time. What do you feel like are the main reasons that people often overlook, and which results the failure of the course in some way?
I think one of the ways it can fail is by skipping the pre research, right? To decide, is this really a course that people are interested in? Is it trending now? Is it top of mind now? Is it really a hot button for your community? Or is it just something you're super passionate about, which is great. It's nice that you want to be passionate about what you do, but you will need to make sure that both of those things are there, that your community is interested and you're passionate. And those are the things that you're promoting out there, for sale. And I think also, when you're in the pricing and not, um, being able to clearly articulate and communicate in your landing pages and your messaging, and your promotion pieces, the value of the transformation. If you really can't help them, take them through the journey of being stuck in the mud and moving slowly, and the sky is gray, and they're cold, and they're hungry, to the place where they're going to be able to lift up out of that mud and take their shoes off, and walk in the soft grass, and the sunshine is warming their face, and they've eaten all this delicious food, and they feel amazing now, and they stretch their arms and they feel freedom, and they can't wait to start the next day, or before they didn't want to get out of bed or even move. So if you can't paint that picture and have that communication, you may struggle, especially if you price your program appropriately, of the value that it is, and it's a higher dollar program. You really need to make sure you're communicating, that message really well.
So yeah, the two things that I fixed is that you need to like validate your idea and see if there is a demand, if your students actually want to see it.
Hmm.
And also, I wanted to know if there are any red flags that you see during the pre-launch process, during the pre-selling process, that kind of show you that this idea that you've had in your mind, this brilliant idea that you thought was going to work, would not work the way you imagined it. So, are there any red flags that you spot?
Yeah, a red flag, especially when you're doing those pre-conversations, and like I talked about, doing like interview articles and asking your community questions. When you're asking them questions about the topic, and they tend to veer off and say, but yes, that's all interesting, but this over here, this thing, and they start talking about something else. Really pay attention, because that means that other thing is a much bigger pain for them, than what you're talking about, right? So listen carefully, and make sure you're asking the kinds of questions that will lead to give them that opportunity to do that, right? So, one of the things I brought to my community recently, that is a big challenge, is getting people to not just register, but actually show up and stay at a virtual event. And this is a real challenge my community is struggling with. And then I asked them, is there anything else that is equally challenging as this, or more so in what you're working on right now? What are you working on that you're finding is even harder than filling your events or getting people to stay to the end, or I get 900 people to register and 10 show up live in the virtual event, right? What's even more frustrating than that right now for you and your business, or what other things are on your mind besides that? So make sure that when you are talking to them about what you're researching, you're asking that question, because then if they get very passionate and then want to talk for 15 minutes about this other thing, and that happens lots of times, then you might not be on the hottest problem, that is in your community's mind. Even though it is a real challenge for people, it may not be the one that your community is focused on. And you want to stick with what your community cares about, because they're the ones who are going to be buying or not buying your program.
So yeah, well, the reason I've mentioned this is because sometimes when you have this great idea in your mind, your eyes become so bright that you do not notice anything else, do not notice the
Mhm,
red flags or anything. So yeah,
mhm.
taking into consideration the feedback and everything you observe is really important during the pre-sale stage, so you can actually come to launch and have a successful launch. And to kind of bring all these to close, to kind of bring all this process to close, and reflecting on your own experience, are there any tips or is there any advice that you can give to beginners to consider, to take that into consideration and make their pre-selling go just as perfect and the way they imagined and planned it right from the beginning?
Yeah, I'm going to repeat a lot of the things I said before. Make sure you do your homework in advance. Make sure that you, are going to have a mentor who's done this successfully already. So have a mentor. Make sure you build out and take the time to build a plan. Make sure you have joint venture partners, networking events, speaking opportunities, and really pull all of this together so that you're not doing it alone.
Yeah, that's really great. Thank you so much, Jessica, for sharing all your experience, all these valuable things and insights. Thank you so much for joining me, and I greatly enjoyed interviewing you today. So that's it on Creators Live today. If you're interested in getting the text version of this interview, we can have the link of this blog article right in the description. And if you have questions about how you can organize the pre-sales, how you can do the pre-launch, you can leave all your questions in the comments, and Uteach team will make sure to answer all of them so you have your excellent pre-launch and pre-selling going. So thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode of Creators Live.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.